This is Jed MacKay, and you're listening to Into the Night, the Moonknight podcast.
Yes, welcome back. Looney listeners, you're listening to Into the Night, the Moonknight podcast. We have another very special episode before that, of course. The High Priest of Khonshu are back. Rebecca, how are you going?
Good. Just coming out of a heat wave, which is what I've been told by people in other countries to refer to it as. It's been incredibly hot here the last week.
May I ask how hot?
32, 33 degrees.
Yeah, geez, that is hot. So,
but you have to remember, everything here is designed to keep warmth in.
It's true.
Right.
So we don't have AC in our houses. We don't have AC. Like, the AC on our trains is very weak. And today it's down at, like, I think 25. So it's just amazing.
That's okay. Yeah. Jeez,
no.
So you'll be baking. My God.
Yeah. Not the worst we've had it, but it's the first time this year it's been bad. So.
Oh gosh. Well, we have a half. I don't want to say half-baked. We have a very hot High Priest Rebecca. I probably shouldn't say that either. With us, of course, I'm Ray, fumbling through life as usual. We have a very special guest, though, of course. So couple episodes, another one. We had the irrepressible Dev Pramatic a couple of episodes ago. He was fantastic. And we've got returning guest, current creator of Moonknight, Jed MacKay. Jed, how you going?
I'm doing very well. And it's very refreshing to be on a podcast where everyone talks about the temperature in Celsius. Americans will talk to you like, oh, it's such and such Fahrenheit. They're like, oh, it was like 100, 105 yesterday. I was like, what?
I think most of the responses to Brits saying anything on Twitter was Americans converting it to Fahrenheit. So but no, I firmly don't. I'm like, go look it up. It's easy enough.
Yeah,
it might be. I have no idea.
We have like remnants of that's like people still refer to feet and stuff. We never refer to Fahrenheit down here, but yeah, I mean that kind of is okay. I kind of know 6 foot. I kind of know that.
Well,
height.
we only switched away from feet and pounds and stone not that long ago, really. So a lot of people still use them, but Celsius we use for a long time.
I mean, we're all in the Commonwealth. We all know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all Britain's fault. Like, just. But we all admit it's the right way to do it, right? So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jed, it's fantastic to have you on the show. We didn't bring you on the show to talk metric dimensions and units, but
that's what I prepared.
I know you better throw all those notes away. Speaking. Of course, just before I forget, everyone, we have been for a long time on YouTube, on the video stream thingy. So you can catch the video of this as we go along. What we thought we'd do, Jed, Rebecca and I, we threw it out there in our community. Very excited that Jed MacKay is coming back onto this show. Have you got any questions for Jed? And we were very pleasantly surprised at the volume that came back at us. It just swamped us.
Well done, everyone.
Yes, yeah. Rebecca blames Dev, and we.
I think he certainly raised awareness, but
I think he did.
I also think it's a good and healthy sign for Moonknight, right? I mean, I've seen a lot more chatter about Moonknight on social media recently. Like, I mean, obviously, it goes in waves, but there's been quite a lot of just general, like, intelligent chatter about it. Not saying that it isn't always intelligent, but just interesting stuff. nice to read.
Yeah, how are you like receiving it, Jed? Because obviously since starting on Moonknight like 3 years ago or whatever, you've added to your 4 years ago.
Wow.
You've added to your portfolio. Doctor Strange, and then you have these huge flagship titles like Avengers,
little things like
X-Men.
the Avengers and the X-Men.
Yeah, these niche characters.
They're just like it's just
Exactly.
pandering to popular things, right? Not like Moon Knight, which is like the real intellectual stuff. Yeah.
It's the real source. But I mean, how do you, I don't know, I guess what's your perspective then? Like, you're obviously still writing Moon Knight, but you're writing a lot more as well. So how does that change your perspective, if anything, when you're writing Moon Knight?
I mean, part of it is that different books satisfy different sort of um, creative needs. Uh, One thing is, I really kind of need Moon Knight in this current workload I've got because I need to have a solo book. Team books exponentially more difficult to write, in my experience,
Mhm.
and it's good to have something on my sort of publishing slate or creative slate that is not a team book. Like you could argue Moon Knight is a bit of a team book. 'Cause he's gradually built up his supporting characters over the years, but at the end of the day, like it's about Moon Knight.
Yeah, they're not ones you have to shine the same amount of limelight on.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I mean, I don't think anyone's really banging their knife and fork on the table for like Soldier to get an equal amount of time in the spotlight as Moon Knight or anything like that. Whereas the Avengers, it's a totally different situation where
Mm.
each of these characters is a headline character. They've all got their fans. And everyone's picking up their book to see their favorites do something.
Mm.
So yeah, it's good and satisfying to be able to go back to do a solo book where you don't have to like focus on one character and that specific character's interactions with the other characters in the book.
and he's not
Yeah.
interacting with the event this time. Like, obviously, you had
Yeah.
your event that you did
Mm.
as well,
Yeah.
which was quite Moon Knight focused. Whereas this one, you're at least with Moon Knight, you can sit out from the one world under doom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's just not really much to be done with Moon Knight in that case, in that respect. I
No,
felt.
I actually agree. I mean, like, but I just imagine that sometimes it's nice to not
Yeah, it's
have
nice
to
to be able,
juggle,
it's
Have the
nice to be able to
freedom.
juggle that at
sub
the
one
same
out.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. That actually, before we jump into, and again, a huge thank you to everyone that has sent in questions. We're going to try and cover all of them. If we don't, please apologize. We apologize in advance. But before we kick on into that, Jay, just one other thing, because it just got me curious with events, right? So you wrote, big event as well, Blood Hunt and all that. How do you find that? Like, kind of, how was that? Like, as a writer, having to be mindful even more so with everything else, I'm assuming, than what is the typical, I guess, approach to a title.
It was horrible. Yeah, not the writing of it, but the planning of it.
Yeah, yeah.
It sounds very much like it feels like project management suddenly impacts it a lot more.
It does, but it's just kind of one of the things where you're working at I was working at a scale far beyond what I was used to. Because previously I would work, do solo books with lesser known characters. They move into doing like Avengers, which is a much higher level kind of situation, and then doing an event where I've got to tell the event story, but I've also got to tie in Avengers, got to tie in Doctor Strange, got to tie in Moon Knight because the reason I'm writing this event is because I have those properties, and it's a worldwide vampire attack. So that's obviously those are three characters that are going to be very affected by it. Not to mention one of them is dead at the time.
Little things.
So I was like, how do I break? I wasn't sure to break the story down. Do I break it down into, I think like what, it's 3 months. I was like, do I just break them down to like 20 parts or whatever? Because we double shipped Blood Hunt for the first 2 months, I think. So like, do I break down like 21 parts and tell it across Vengeance, Avengers, and Doctor Strange and the Blood Hunt series, or do I keep it all the events in the main Blood Hunt series and then find something to do in Vengeance, Avengers, and Doctor Strange, and like just trying to like figure out how to balance that and how to I mean, I guess balance kind of thing. We're trying to like load management essentially as to like what needs to go in each book in order to make it relevant, but also what needs to only stay in the main Blood Hunt series in order to make that one story that works on its own. And I think to most extents, I was pretty pleased with how it came out, and seeing Pepe draw all these characters was incredible.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the end of the day, I think I'm pretty happy with how Blood Hunt came out. I think people more or less liked it. People
I
bring up
think
the new
so.
sign
Yeah.
whenever I do signings, so I know I know people. The usual hue and cry broke out when it was announced that with all the tie-ins. Like, oh, all these tie-ins,
Oh yeah.
Marvel. Like, oh, it's a cash grab for Marvel. I'm like, well, every comic book is a cash grab.
Yeah.
That's how the company works. But also,
Yeah.
you don't have to read all the tie-ins to make
No,
this
I
movie
have to say,
work.
since comics got more expensive, I'm finding it easier to not read all the tie-ins.
Yeah,
Like there
sure.
were some
Like,
events where I really did, and but you always try and like pick a couple like that I haven't read before to
yeah,
get the extra flavor from it, and also obviously having like Marvel Unlimited is a great way of filling in those gaps because I
yes,
think there's always something interesting in the tie-ins. I mean, there's been like in my history of reading comics that yes, there's been ones that I've been like, I wish I never read that, but like
sure.
generally they add something to it, and I think like it just you just pick and choose. Like I certainly with the longer running events as well. And
Sure. Oh yeah, totally.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well.
and like it's kind of a, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. Sorry. Sorry. Go ahead, Jed.
No, I was gonna say like that's if you wanted to read Blood Hunt, you could just read Blood Hunt, and it would pretty much work on its own. If you read Vengeance, it would work a little better. If you read Doctor Strange, probably work a little better. And then there's other ones like Black Panther. I thought was a great tie-in because it took stuff that I had not had in the main series, and kind of blew it up in a way to tell its own story, which I thought was a really smart way to do that. It wasn't wholly necessary for the story to make sense, but I think it really added a lot of depth and richness to it. So yeah, it just kind of comes down to how comfortable you are with getting a bunch of books, and whether you
Yeah.
want to keep it. And that's the kind of thing with writing an event like that was you want to keep it so it can be as pared down as possible for people who don't want to buy all these
Yeah.
very good books, while others who do have that extra experience if they want it.
Yeah. Did you have to for those other extended books, the extended tie-ins? Did you have to kind of like screen them all, or did you kind of give everyone like okay, I don't know how these writing the creative process goes, or do you like just give someone like a through line and say, okay, go for it, and as long as you stick to this, that's fine. You
Yeah,
can go
as
right.
far as that went, like most of it is just kind of the editor's problem.
yeah,
So Tom was writing Blood Hunt, and because at that time he was my Avengers and Moon Knight editor, and also he's Tom, so he's like the big man in the office. So he was generally doing most of the quarterback and the logistics of like if this is going to work, this isn't going to work, etc. Stuff would be sent to me if I needed to know what characters were getting up to or what things were happening. But for the most part, other creators are kind of free to do what they wanted, and then there's a lot of times the other side where stuff would happen in Blood Hunt that other creators have to know about their characters. I was bringing up that Cody was so gracious when he was told that it's like Miles Morales is going to be in Blood Hunt. Also, he's going to get turned into a vampire. You better figure out what you want to do in your book.
Yeah.
Because when I was putting it together, like, oh, well, we need a Spider-Man. They're like, well, how about Miles? I was like, sure. And like, someone's got to get turned into a vampire, and a vampire man. It's like, shit, if we're gonna turn into a vampire, like, do Miles. Like, all right, fine, here we
go. Nice, yeah. Well, keeping in mind, I guess the writing and how you write for Moon Knight and comics. Let's jump into the questions. We've got them on here for everyone to see, except for Jed. There you are. Okay, so first question's from Rebecca. Shall we alternate here? I'll kick us off.
Sure.
The first one's from Phoenix A Blazed, and they mention, what is the writing process for each issue like? I love writing, and I would love to hear how you work on Moon Knight and what truly goes on behind the scene. So
at this point, when I write a Moon Knight issue, I've got usually like a paragraph of outline where I know what's going to happen in the issue, and then just, get into it and start scripting. This is in part because over the years I've come to realize that my my process as far as writing goes tends to work best when it's fairly improvisational. For me, a lot of it just happens on the page. when I'm trying to figure things out or make things work. I'm able to understand it as I'm writing it better than I would be if I was trying to sit down and like do a page by page outline, which is just I've tried to do that for a long time, and it's just not really how it works. It would be great if I was one of comics' great planners, but I'm not. So I think that works in my favor a lot of times because it brings a certain life to the page. As things are being created and things are changing and developing organically on the page, I think there's kind of like a real sort of frisson while I'm writing a script. On the other hand, I was talking to my dad about this because number 9 just came out. He was talking to me. He said he really liked it. And that was one that I had written like 8 or 9 pages of, so I'm almost halfway, and then realized that I had to rewrite the whole thing because I came across. I obviously hit a point where I'm like, oh no, everything I've been doing up till now isn't what this issue is about. This thing that I was just going to gloss over, that's what this issue is about. So I had to go back and just start from scratch. And I think I managed to say like 3 or 4 pages, and then another 3 or 4 pages then got bumped into what issue? Number 12.
Okay.
Because originally number 9 was going to see Mark go back to therapy, but then as I was writing, I kind of realized like, oh no, wait, if we're going to do this, drug withdrawal cure thing, then that doesn't work. So we'll bump that to number 12. So all the therapy stuff from number 9 goes to number 12, etc. It's just a lot of kind of like juggling for that.
Yeah, right.
So it's frustrating, but ultimately I think the finished product comes out pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Then,
sorry, Rebecca.
No, carry on.
I was just going to quickly say, so when we spoke to Dev, he spoke about there being instances with the art about being jazz improvisational, in the sense that, he had this kind of dialogue with you about you'd have something in the script like this is a montage page and it has to show this and so is that common? Like, is that a common thing with writers and artists where you do give them the free rein, but you do back and forth? Because Dev mentioned that you then added some text in. Yeah,
it's usually for things like action pages where, I mean, I could say here's what this panel is and here's what this fight is, but it's unless it has a very specific purpose that I feel like I need to outline. I think it's generally more interesting if you just say to the artist, like, here's a page. Moon Knight's going to fight Vermin for. I think actually did it for a couple pages that issue, and Moon Knight's going to fight Vermin. Sometimes I'll basically just have a bunch of balloons or caps in the list. There's no panel breakdown. There's none of that. Say like, you draw this, and I'll go and make this dialogue fit in when it comes time to do the script for the letterer. Other times where it's like, you do a page and I'll come up with dialogue to match it because this page has been blocked off for a fight, and once I see what this fight looks like, then I can figure out what's going to be going on there. And I think it works well, especially with Dev, because you've seen these fights he comes up with.
Yeah.
And God, yeah.
I mean, you see the scraps next issue. It's going to be
nice.
Nice.
I like that you can say that about any issue, and it's always kind of true.
I know.
See what's coming. Which is nice. So, two questions from Fanta, which I'm just gonna. Yeah. What songs do you associate with the characters Mark, Stephen, Jake, and the Midnight Crew?
Oh, I don't know if I can answer that one. That's a question I get asked like fairly, not frequently, but not infrequently. But it's always something I have to put thought into, and I can't get the one off the top of my head.
I figure for me it would be like the kind of thing that I would answer. I'd think carefully about it, and then the day later I'd think of a perfect song.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so. And then their other question is: when writing Moon Knight, what's your inspiration? Specifically, they framed it as something fun but scary.
I want to be able to write for fun, but it's scary to write. I mean, my inspiration for writing with Moon Knight is, ultimately, this artist needs pages. It's like I'd like to say I hit every deadline, but the reality is I've got so much work that sometimes things get slipped. This also doing creative work is something that doesn't always work on a schedule as much as you would like it to. Where you'll be working trying to figure out a problem and nothing's coming to mind. But ultimately, every day I'm late with a script is a day less than artist has to draw it. Because those print deadlines don't change. Like that's all windows in the publication schedule. So that's kind of one of the main things is I don't want to make anyone else's job any harder, which is to say that I don't, or anybody doesn't. But that's something I really try to. But as far as writing for fun is that I think if you're afraid of writing but you want to write for fun, the simple thing is just you don't have to show it to anybody. You can write entirely by yourself. Before I was working professionally, I was writing all the time. I was writing prose as part of like a writing club my friends from university and I had. And you just write on Google Docs. You don't need a fancy program. You don't need any sort of thing. You can use a free online thing that you can run on any internet connected computer. And you can just write for fun. You can just write for yourself. If you want to set yourself a goal for the day, when I was writing my first and only and unpublished novel, I set myself a goal of 1,000 words a day because I was underemployed. I had the time, and it was free, and it was something to do that didn't cost me any money. So I'd write 1,000 words a day. I didn't always make it. Sometimes it was only 500 or whatever, but eventually it was done, and it's never gotten me anything. It's never been published. I've never made any money off it. No one's ever. Well, my friends have said nice things about it. That's they're my friends, but still, it's like a 80-something thousand word novel, I think. So it's done.
That's impressive, though.
It's cool.
Yeah, and like the fact that it's done and that it exists, I think is for me a tremendously fulfilling kind of accomplishment. And it's the same with all the stories I wrote, right, or have written in the past. They're on my blog website thing, whatever. I haven't put one up in years because I don't have time to write for fun anymore. But it's good to be able to look at something and say, this is a thing that I did that I finished. It may not be good. It's definitely not perfect. It may not even be long, but this is a story I came up with and saw through to completion. And I think there's a lot of value in that, even if you don't show it to anybody else but yourself.
Because the process, you know what you know how it came about, and it's basically it's 100% yours. I mean, so that's
exactly. So it's if it's scary to write for fun, just remember you don't have to show it to anybody.
Yeah.
So
that's good advice. A next question here from Noel Tate. Jed, you may remember Noel, friend of the show. Noel says, I know it's not strictly Moon Knight related, but I honestly want to know, as a Canadian, how is Jed feeling about writing American characters in this day and age? Noel, always bringing in the spicy ones. Jed, I'll talk to you.
It's there's interesting stuff there. I mean, when we look at these characters, especially writing Captain American Avengers, Captain America has always been a character who stands for what the country should be at its best, and that's kind of the whole point of the character. To the point of that famous, I'm loyal not in general, but loyal not to the dream. But yeah, like there's definitely some kind of tricky stuff to it, and kind of squaring thoughts about the world with the characters that exist in these comic books. And then it's just this morning we get to see the U.S. enter into yet another ill-considered war in the Middle East. I feel like I'm like 17 again. It's all the early 2000s.
It felt quite strange to wake up to. I'm sure for all of us,
yeah. So I mean, we at the end of the day, it is like superhero comics. We do try to look at these characters as them doing the best they can in a recently flawed system.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of it, really.
Yeah.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair to say. Yes.
I'm sure we've covered this one before, but that none of us will remember. But any favorite arc by the other Moon Knight authors, and this is by Aidan Teggs.
I mean, like I said, I always go back to the 2014 Moon Knight. I really loved it.
Yeah.
I do feel as time goes on that the Cullen Bunn Moon Knight was underappreciated. It was,
yeah,
it was a bit all over the place, but I think it had some really interesting ideas. As I've said before, like if I hadn't done the Midnight Mission, I'd have stolen his hotel full of ghosts. I thought that was great base for mine. Yeah, as far as other stuff, I was reading some old Moon Knight stuff, kind of just here and there stuff, but yeah, I think that some of that modern stuff is I think underloved.
Yeah. I think so too. I think it's also a bit of an embarrassment of riches. Like there's something in each of the runs that I think that is worth reading them for.
Yeah, and they're so diverse too.
We're coming up to 250 issues of Moon Knight, like next month. Depending on how you. I mean, that's how Marvel's counting it officially.
That's how Marvel. That's all we can go by, right?
Like, listen,
how they're counting it this year.
Like I'm on my third Moon Knight title. I'm still calling it my one Moon Knight run.
Yeah. So we.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like for me, this is not like sure it's Fist of Khonshu number 10. For me, it's Moon Knight number 50.
We understand the need to like have number ones occasionally crop up. Yeah. It's fine. We all still just call it your long run.
Yeah, I mean that's the Marvel thing. But yeah, as far as other favorite kind of Moon Knight stories, it's the end of Mark Spector Moon Knight I think is often kind of decried because it does go completely off the rails.
It's totally weird. Yeah,
it's but really weird. I do have a certain amount of affection for it just because it is so completely gonzo. And there's a lot of stuff from that era that I do like and have taken. Like I like the Hellbent characters. Obviously, we brought back Cubist. I think that they're neat because there's so many of these weird characters. I like the Shadow Cabinet. I thought they were really cool.
Yeah.
And a lot of it doesn't work. Like the Frenchie bloodline thing. I didn't care for this Marcus the Hellbent thing. I didn't care for. But that's kind of the beauty about these comics, is that we can go back, we can pick and choose. We can take the things we like and like have a lot of affection for and bring them forward and polish them off and use them again. Stuff that you don't like or hasn't aged very well, you don't have to get into it. It's not a big deal. I'm never going to bring up the point that Mark Spector at one point has demons in his family tree. I'm like, nah, I don't think so. That's not really going to work for me. That said, though, some other writer down the line, maybe they'll have a really great angle on that.
Exactly. Down in the far-flung future, there might be some worth in that. We had the real pleasure of chatting with Terry Kavanagh as well, and it was really interesting to hear what he said about that kind of end run of his, and apparently Mark Grunwald loved it. Like he loved the Hellbent characters, and he was pushing for it. So
Well, Grunwald loves like groups of weirdos. Like he came up with the Death Throes, who were a quote group of criminal jugglers, which is fantastic. And again, Moon Knight chucked one of them off a building in issue number 1.
Yeah.
So like my shared affection for these ideas, I think is evident.
Yeah, that's crazy. So we got a similar question from Automatic Problem 4260 about your favorite arc, but the next question from Common. And they say, what's your favorite Moon Knight issue currently? And do you have any plans for Hunter's Moon in the future? Lastly, any tips on how to write Khonshu's character?
I mean, I'm not really sure how to answer. Like, what's my favorite Moon Knight issue full stop? I don't really know. I don't think I could really narrow that one down.
What's your favorite of yours that have been out so far then?
Yeah, let's stick it to yours, Yeah.
I know it's like asking your favorite children,
Yeah.
but the question's been
That's
asked.
tough. That's tough. It's one that I think I have a particular affection for is I think it was number 9. The first run is the Hunter's Moon Scarlet Stained Glass Scarlet.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
with the
any
artwork.
stained glass Scarlet is
Yeah.
always going to be in the top for me.
I've got a lot of affection for that one just because I think it really kind of encapsulates what I like about Moon Knight, even though Moon Knight's not in it. Because it's essentially a one-shot story.
Yeah.
It's essentially, it's going back to those older characters, and I think it's got a lot of the kind of the feel and sensibility of the early Mensch, kind of stories, but it also is a very distinctly supernaturally rooted story in this kind of street level supernatural that we've been trying to do with Moon Knight. And I think for me, that's one of the issues that I think really kind of um, acts as a thesis for what we've been trying to do with this book since we started it. So that's always kind of the one I think of as one of my particular favorites. And also, I think that was an instance where you really saw Alessandro really become who he is now. You really saw Rochelle just rise to the occasion, and because it was a complicated issue art-wise.
Yeah. It was opening up some of those pages was just like, how did they even do that?
Yeah. So I think it's, and again, ironically, not an issue that has Moon Knight in it. But yeah, I think it serves as a decent thesis for a successful case of us doing what we set out to do.
Yeah, fantastic. Now you don't have to answer anything in depth here about Hunter's Moon. Any plans for Hunter's Moon in the future?
We have some future questions about him. So
yeah. And to write Khonshu's character, he's just sort of a horrible, pompous bird.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the thing about Khonshu is that, as far as Khonshu's concerned, Khonshu has never done anything wrong, and that's kind of as I see it, the core of his character. He's a terrible parent, he's a terrible god, but at the same time, he is a quote unquote parent. He is a god, so he's not really someone you can just put on block or put on ignore. So, and it's not just that he's a narcissistic maniac with too much power, but he also does think that what he's doing is doing good, and there's a lot to kind of balance with a character like that.
Yeah, I particularly loved him in was it issue 8, like with Carver, and Mark bringing him out and him, just anytime he actually flaunts and shows his power is, I reckon, awesome.
Yeah, it does a bit of flexing.
Yeah, he's flexing. Yeah, exactly.
When he flexes rather than always moans, but I love the moaning. It just sounds like me talking to my cats, probably.
Yeah,
I think I thought he was done pretty well in the TV show. I thought he was depicted pretty well.
Like, was great.
F. Murray Abraham had that kind of voice.
That voice was, that was amazing.
It was when he's yelling things like "punch him in the throat" or
exactly.
It was very funny. So this one is from Quarter Mew. I don't know. My sister always complains when I put my characters through hell for the sake of the story, but I see it as the best way to develop them. So I wonder, what is your favorite horrible thing that you've done to Moon Knight?
I thought this was a cool one.
I thought it was a cool one as well.
I mean, we killed him, but I don't think that really counts.
It wasn't horrible. It's not like,
he went out on a pretty good way.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe either Black Spectre putting him through the ringer on Hard Island was a pretty good one because he didn't come out of that one looking great.
Yeah.
But also probably just Achilles Fairchild just kicking the piss out of him. It just made him look like shit. Because that's what these stories are about. These stories are about conflict and struggle, and a lot of people are like, oh, why can't these characters ever be happy? It's like, well, that's not really a story, is it? Like,
I mean, no, you'd only
then
want
it's
to
then
read
it's
it for
just
about 3 pages. So
Yeah.
well, yeah, and then it becomes Animal Crossing or something like, which is fine, but
hey,
Yeah.
it's
it's
not really.
Jeff
It's
is
not.
very
Has its
popular.
place.
It's true. It's true. But again, that's a different kind of story.
Yeah, there's no My
Yeah.
Little Moon Knight in the future, is what you're saying.
No, like it's like I'm
No.
sure there probably is some sort of market for, Mr. Knight opening a coffee shop in the Midnight Missions,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's going to sustain a monthly comic.
I mean, not from.
No
I would say
conflicts.
not from
Nothing
long-term
wrong.
fans of Moon Knight. That's where it veers more into the sort of fanfic area, and not in a
Yeah.
not in a bad way, but like
No, no,
I
no.
mean, that's one of the things I like about fanfic existing. I was very like reticent about it for a long time, but it allows people to explore those bits and see if the stories would work. But
Yeah,
that's
for
not.
sure.
People aren't going to go buy a long run of Moon Knight where it's like that, probably.
No, I mean, I think that's it's just an expectation of the genre. Like,
Yeah.
would that be a good Marvel Infinity comic? Yeah, probably.
Right.
It's
Right.
not.
Yeah.
I think it's you treat it like you would like a slice of life manga kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, or even doing like doing Maison Koku, except in the
Oh,
Midnight
that'd be
Mission. That'd
so
be
funny.
fantastic. That'd be
That'd be
great.
so funny. Or like I mean, and I think we were praising the Infinity Comics the other in one of our previous podcasts, and
Yeah.
I'm just saying like I think it's like such a great way of adding value to Marvel Unlimited because
Oh yeah.
Oh,
it
absolutely.
does open up that thing that you just don't get anywhere else. I just think like that is where we need the 8 ball run, right?
Yeah, and like,
Yeah, like
is
eight
there room
ball
for like it's eight
setting
ball?
up to his
Sure.
antics. Yeah,
Yeah.
like that would be fun.
And I think it's a great way for uh, creators to be put in a position where they can take risks that ordinarily the
Yeah.
company wouldn't do.
Mm.
Like you look
Yeah, I
at
don't think I've seen anything quite like it since we had Battle World. Like really,
yeah,
where it was just like, go make your own little world. Doesn't matter, have fun, kill
yeah,
Bucky. You're
yeah,
fine.
and like look at Avengers Academy, like that. I
I
mean,
love it. I love it.
it's doing this to what I can tell, it's doing extraordinarily well.
I mean,
But
any
also,
of
I
the
think
ones
that's
that
a
they've actually
concept that
printed, I figure are doing pretty well.
yeah,
So
yeah. So yeah, I kind of got far afield of the question there, but yeah, I think it's a great way for people to be able to take risks that ordinarily a large, relatively risk averse company wouldn't
yeah,
be into.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now we have a few here, kind of asking the same things. Again, this might be a bit because this is venturing into stuff. But so cake toss, we got. So I'll just summarize this one, Rebecca. So I guess cake toss, Bubba Patch, appropriate spot 3122, and apparently Lodestar. Are all asking about the old cast. So any chance of seeing the old cast? Marlene, Frenchie Crawley. There's a mention of Beatrice as well. We know from Bemis's run and how she's doing. Would love to see check in with her. Already missing the Midnight Mission, which is
Yeah.
true. But yeah, any I don't know, Jed, anything that you can divulge with this?
There's going to be some nods in that direction, we'll
Okay.
say. First of all, is Crawley actually alive? I thought he died in the Lemire run, but everyone seems to be very confused about that.
Everyone is really confused about it.
Okay, so it's
Sorry,
not just me.
is that the
Okay,
Crawley?
cool.
Okay, yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
I think me and Ray have discussed this before as well.
Yes,
going
we
like,
have.
Who's
Yeah.
alive? He's still alive from them. Yeah.
But yeah, it's as far as the old cast goes. It's not that I don't like them or don't want to use them. It's just when we began, one of the kind of mandates with starting this Moon Knight run is we wanted a relatively clean break from the past of stuff we've already done with Moon Knight in order to try something new. And as kind of a part of that, as that has succeeded, we're kind of sticking with that. We've got Tiger instead of Marlene. We've got Soldier instead of Crawley, or whichever way you want to look at it.
Who is 8 ball instead of? And do not say Frenchie.
No, I mean Hunter's Moon is the French character.
Okay, cool,
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, 8 Ball. I don't know. The Moon Knight have a pet?
I don't know. I was thinking no, but he should. No, I was thinking Frenchie because I thinking Frenchie 8-Ball because I could see 8-Ball being his driver. Is the only
Right?
that was
Yeah.
my only connection there. But then, yeah. So
Yeah, I know. For me, Hunter's Moon is the Frenchie of the current
yeah,
run,
that
just
makes
because
sense in terms
you
of
know they.
closeness and yeah,
Well, they're again, Frenchie is essentially Mark's brother, and
yeah,
Hunter's Moon calls and Mark call each other brothers a lot. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that would be the connection I'd put there. Um, but yeah, so now with the kind of momentum is that if I'm going to bring any of those characters back, I want it to be in an impactful way. I think it would be a big deal, and I don't want to just kind of like chuck them in and say, have them come pop in and say, "Hey, what's going on?" She's gonna say, "Hey, I got a different diner now. One of my kids is dead. What up?" Um, I did have back when I was. Remember, was it annual number 1, the Werewolf by Night one?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Originally, part of that was like because the idea was that Jack wanted to kill Khonshu, and I was going to have a side story in the future where he had done that. And I think like
Nice.
Reese was going to be Moon Knight, and
That'd been cool.
who was Gina's surviving kid who was Mark's assistant for a while? What was his name? Was it Ray?
I was going to say Rick, but yeah, I can't. It's 50-50. I don't know.
Anyways,
I think it's Ray.
Ray.
I think you're right. I think it's Ray.
I think it was Ray. Yeah, Ray
Yeah.
Landers, and he was going to be like essentially her friend. She was going to be a thing. Then I started writing things. I'm like, there's no room for this. It's an entire side story. So maybe someday I'll do that. But it was like a future that we had to avert because after Khonshu died, things went to hell, et cetera, et cetera.
Cool. That'd be awesome.
So yeah, like, these characters never far from my mind. It's just a matter of finding the right time to put them in something. Like I said, it would be a big deal, and we'd have to treat it like a big deal, and which requires a certain amount of planning and a certain amount of essentially page space. You got to devote a certain amount of this issue or however many issues to these characters, which are a big part of this character's life. Come back.
Yeah, I think it's because they're a huge legacy to the Moon Knight character, but I think it's again testament to your writing across the 4 years that everyone has this affection towards Reese and 8-Ball and Tigra.
I hope so.
It's just really great. I mean, because that was one of the things I guess near the beginning, Rebecca, we were hesitant or wary of, or will other Moon Knight fans be up in arms that they're not going to be? Yeah,
you've seen reactions to other things that other comics, other Moon Knight things where it's like, where's this, where's that, and I think it bedded in very quickly, and people sort of like. I think you're right. Like some of where it kicked off from necessitated that little break, and then giving us a new sort of little group for him, and seemed to hit enough buttons that the questions started getting asked less and less.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's one of those things where we had a certain amount of luxury with Moon Knight, is that we were guaranteed 12 issues from the get-go. So I didn't feel like I had to front load all these characters into Mark's life. I would kind of go about it in an organic way. We put Reese into his life in that first issue. Soldier turns up the second issue. Hunter's Moon turns up the third issue. Not as a friend. Even 8-Ball's in that first issue getting his ass whipped by Dr. Batter. But also a lot of the stuff kind of develops as it goes on. I didn't know I was going to put Mark and Tyra together until I sat down to write that issue. Because I was still kind of on the fence about it. Again, until I read that Black, White, and Blood story that Canwell and Linz did, which I was like, okay, they forced my hand. And similarly, I wasn't sure if I was going to redeem 8-Ball at the end of 25 until I was like, really, the rubber's hitting the road. I'm like, okay, now this is how it's got to end.
Okay.
And then at that point, I knew the last page of the last issue of that Moon Knight run, number 30, was going to have 8-Ball with the Midnight Mission.
Yeah, it's great, which everyone loves.
Yeah, loved. And as I hinted at before, so we have 3 that are pretty similar here, from apparently Lodestar, Mate, and Pepper Jack, asking if there's any chance of some more Barda backstory, or even a solo run. I'm guessing mini.
It probably wouldn't be for me, as I'm pretty stretched thin.
Yeah.
There was talk about doing some doing like Hunter's Moon mini. I don't think it ever came together. Well, obviously, it never came together since it's not out. Um, but I think hopefully it could come together. I think there's probably interest in the character. Every time I go to a summit, I always bother Jesse Falcon and ask him why there's not a Hunter's Moon figure yet. But
seen some good fan art starting to emerge on Twitter and Blue Sky News. So that's cool.
And it's good to see that people seem to like him, because introducing a character like Hunter's Moon can go not very well. I'm sure we've all seen similar kind of situations where it hasn't worked, and I'm pleased that people seem to like him. Anyway, like I said, it has inspired some excellent fan art. There's a person in China that I don't see as much of them on Twitter anymore. It's like Expertish Bella, but their fan art is extraordinary. It's just beautiful textures and like a lot of Hunter's Moon and Night stuff. It's really nice stuff. Like I said, I would love to see more with him. He has been getting maybe a bit of a short shrift lately, just because as the supporting cast has expanded, everyone kind of necessarily gets less time. It's something I've also felt about Reese lately, where Reese hasn't had as much to do as she used to when she was like the only person in the mission. So it's a matter of trying to make some space time for these characters so that they have they can make their mark. They can be an important part of the book.
Yeah. Can I ask as well, just quickly before we go to the next? Any plans like for annuals soon? Because I always loved how the annuals, you get little stories, which I found opportunities. I'm assuming that writers can tell these extra little bits to add to the whole lore stuff. So, would there be anything in the horizon for Moon Knight?
I don't actually know. I haven't been asked to do an annual. I didn't do the last annual because it was part of the.
It was part of the event thing, not event, like mini thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like an annual event. The same way I did Infinite Destinies, however many years ago. But it's going back again to those same characters. So Dan Waters did.
That was cool.
The most recent one. Yeah, man, you want to talk about a dude who's everywhere? Dan is everywhere. Every time I'm on like Blue Sky or like social media, I see it's like, and now it's Dan Waters is taking over this book. It's like, what the what? How many books are you writing? I think it's one of those situations where they kind of have to come to me with an annual if they want me to do it. Which ordinarily I'd be like, well, obviously I want to do all the Moon Knight annuals, but if it's part of an event, and also, like I said, I'm kind of getting fairly stretched in at this point in time, so I don't mind passing off an annual if they want to do one. Whereas perhaps I'm a lot less possessive than I once was with Moon Knight, where I was very obsessive early on.
Now, as you say, now you're kind of like, you've got a lot on your plate. So, next one, a Zealous. What is Zealous? Ideal Low. Okay.
I'm turning it into love.
Zealous Idea Low 7998. So I'm just going to read this one out. Stephen and Jake don't get much or any focus in a lot of modern day works. Do you have interest in telling long form stories with either of them as the main focus characters? I would trust your work to carry that out well. Also, as well, a little side note: if not plot relevant, what is Soldier's legal name?
You're not going to find that out here, pal. As far as Jake and Steven go, I would like to do more with Jake and Steven. I feel like I'm kind of being remiss in not doing so. It's just a matter of finding the opportunity for it. Because I think Jake and Steven are both great characters, but ultimately the book's called Moon Knight with Mark Spector. Mark is very much the main character of this book, and Jake and Steven are supporting characters within the book. So a long form story with either of them as the main focus character, I think would be great, but also I think it's tougher to sell. Given that when people read a book called Moon Knight, they want to see Moon Knight in his costume doing Moon Knight shit. I would love to do a crime, gritty kind of like Jake Lockley solves a crime kind of thing. But again, maybe that's more of an annual story. It's certainly it's certainly explored an anthology story, right? Like they did in Black, White, and Blood, and like baseball.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, Mensch used to also do like a backup story just about Mark's mercenary days, which I always loved as
Mark
well.
Spector, Mercenary.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would like to do more with them, and it's just a matter of when Jake or Steven are doing things, that means Moon Knight's not doing something. And which is not to say that that's impossible, but it does present a problem when you're trying to sell a book called Moon Knight with a guy in a Moon Knight costume going around doing Moon Knight stuff. Because in my interpretation of these characters as part of the system, is that they don't do the field stuff. Jake gathers information, Steven makes money, and Mark goes out and fights and gets beat up. So it can be tricky.
And then kind of carrying on, Lego Moon Knight, who is very active on Twitter. So they've asked the same thing, but also then how about Tigra continues to be amazing. Is it possible to get more issues focused on her? And will Hank be sticking around? Not sure you can answer too much about those, but anything you can.
So as far as Tigra goes, yeah, I think she's a fairly integral part of the book. We did see a focus issue on her past 22 in Vengeance, when everybody got a focus issue in Vengeance. We were putting each of them in therapy.
That was great.
Yeah,
that was good.
Tiger's not going anywhere as far as I've got planned, as far as I know, unless I want to do some, higher up decides, she's getting a movie or something, we're going to spin her off to the solo book or whatever.
I will come for them.
That is a hypothetical situation. It's not me breaking the Tiger movie. So yeah, I'm sure we'll focus on her as we continue to go on in time. Is Hank sticking around? Hank's not officially part of the Midnight Mission crew. Also, I think it's just announced that Hank's going on to get his own series in Battle Worlds.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but the Battle World book that's coming.
Yeah,
okay. Sounds fun. Sounds like good fun.
But that said, I don't think Hank is leaving the book forever. I think he's got connections with all these characters in a way that I think he works in Moon Knight because Moon Knight is a book about fuck ups, and Hank Pym is frequently a fuck up.
Yeah.
And I think he. Well, yeah, and I say that with great affection. But I think he fits in that book. So when it comes time for him to come back, I don't think it's a real stretch.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope to see him back. I mean, he's an interesting character. So
yeah, and I also really like the way Dev and Domenico draw him.
Yes. Yeah, very good. So, got the next one here, Jed, from Gaming Reloaded. I'll read this one out. And this was kind of, I guess, tied similar to Little Flaw 863. So, thank you for your questions. Hey, Jed, love what you've been doing. One thing I've been wondering, are Steven and Jake also dating Greer, or do they define their relationships differently from Mark? And also, in general, is there any character, lore, hobbies, preferences, etc., not relevant enough to make it into the story, but that you've had thoughts about? Wondering if there's anything fun bouncing around in your head. That kind of ties in with Little Flaw 863, just asking about the future for Tigra and Mark.
So yeah, as far as Jake and Steven and Tigra, it's not really something we've explored. As I see it right now, I'm focusing on Greer and Mark. That said, I don't want to make any statements on anything now because, like I said, it's just not something I've explored or put a great deal of thought into at this moment. So I wouldn't want to commit to something now and we'll have to go back to change it later. Because like I said, if it's not on the page, it doesn't really exist, right? So if I'm up here on a podcast saying like this is how it is, but it's not on the page, then it's kind of disingenuous. Because there's no point to it, unless it's just something fun. Where say like, oh, Jake's super into Parcheesi. So yeah, it's it's not something that has come up, and I don't want to codify it one way or another until at some point we do want to explore that, what potential drama could exist there. As character lore, hobbies, preferences, not relevant, is I don't know. I mean, have a think about that because generally we kind of put like basically anything that's as trivial as possible in here. But
I'm gonna declare 8-Ball a massive cricket fan.
well, see, the thing is, I think 8-Ball likes all sports because he has a gambling problem.
Exactly,
Oh,
but
wow, yeah.
I just want it to be one that no American would be a fan of.
It would be quite good to have a cricket themed supervillain in the way that 8-Ball is a.
The thing is that like no, you'd have to explain so much to Americans that like be like what you. I mean, they still don't quite get how you can draw after 5 days. So
yeah,
you know,
there's
like
got to
an
be a
opera.
cricket themed supervillain, right?
Oh, who
Can't
The
knows?
think-
batsman,
I mean,
sticky wicket.
The
there's gotta
batsman,
be-
yes, sticky.
there's got to be one in a Doctor Who.
LBW.
Right? There's got to be
yeah.
a Doctor Who one, or
Yeah,
or a 2000 AD one that has
Yeah.
something. Yeah,
yeah, that absolutely sounds like a 2000 AD thing.
yeah.
So next one here, Rebecca. This
Yes.
is the Jed
Jill
related.
1974.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Just to answer that, the one that was there previously. What does the future hold for American Tigers couple?
Yes.
I mean, you got to read the book, man. Like that's kind of the point of it. That's how it works.
yeah. Nah, yeah. Stay
Get to
tuned,
100
Liverpool.
issues. Maybe we'll get a wedding.
Yeah. Careful. That tends not to go well for characters a couple years down the line.
No, that's true. Yeah.
Especially not in anniversary issues.
Ooh.
Yeah. So the next question, Jill 1974. Black Cat has guest starred in your Avengers and Doctor Strange runs. Any chance she'll cross paths with Moon Knight?
I'm not entirely certain. I'm kind of surprised I haven't done it already, which I think is sort of speaks to how sort of like forward driven Moon Knight book tends to be, where it's like onto the story. There's not as much time for kind of like messing about. But it's not to discount it. I mean, obviously, I love writing Felicia. Black Cat is basically the book why I have a career, and you know, as we saw in Avengers, because the scheduling got shifted around with One World Under Doom, so I needed an arc in between when they're actually going to do some Doom shit and when we announce the Doom shit. And I was like, well, like, what can I do in the meantime? I was like, well, we'll do a Black Cat thing, Avengers, space casino heist. I'm like, perfect, that's fantastic. So if I'm ever in a situation where I'm like, I need a story because of scheduling changes, you know, Black Cat's always there, and like, you know, in case of emergency break glass.
Fair.
No, she's great. She's a great character.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic.
So, before I get into these ones, I just want to shout out the Moon Knight on Blue Sky. So, the Moon Knight has been championing Moon Knight on Blue Sky. They do a fantastic job. So, I just want to give a shout out to Moon Knight.
Very much want the Hunter's Moon mini as well.
But we have a group kind of question here, I guess, from Comfortable over 8984, the Moon Knight, and Mark Spector, Zodiac enthusiast, basically asking Zodiac. He seems to be quite a popular villain. Such a bastard, I think, as you called him before, Jed.
Yeah. I mean,
fun to write, I'm sure. Yeah.
Of course, we're going to see Zodiac again.
Yeah. Cool.
I mean, we spent 12 issues where, you know, and again, our first 12 issues were arguably some of the most important issues for the series, saying like, here's this guy, and he's a real Moon Knight villain. The thing with Zodiac is that we want to be sort of careful with his appearances. I don't know if the word ration is the best way, but if he turns up every 6 issues against beat, he's not really much of a threat, is he? So we want to make every time Zodiac turns up feel like it's a big deal, which necessarily means he doesn't turn up as much as maybe you might like. But that said, you know, he's not forgotten. He is, you know, to me, Zodiac is the Moon Knight villain for our whole run. So yeah, you'll definitely see him again.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, hope so. Hope so.
So now we're going to Khonshu.
Mm.
I'll just read
Speaking of
them all out.
bastards,
Yeah. Talking about
Yeah.
Snoo71809 said, now that Khonshu's back, what is Mark's and Khonshu's relationship going to look like going forward? Will Khonshu,
contentious.
yeah, will Khonshu bring back Moon Knight's powers?
What
Um,
powers?
I don't know.
Like
I guess
like
it's from the old.
if we're talking about his resurrections, then sure, yeah. If we're talking about like his like it's like shit, what was that? The Fist of Khonshu
Fist of
when he was
Khonshu,
like
the moon
Yeah,
powers. Yeah,
yeah, where he's
I'm
like I get
assuming.
stronger with the phase of the moon.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
No, we're not going to do
yeah.
that. That's not.
Okay.
It's just it's outside the realm of what we do in this book. Where Moon Knight
And then
has
the next
essentially
question's kind of a follow up to that one. Then we get Random Sakura is asking whether Khonshu's going to get a storyline or maybe another point of view chapter like issue 0.
it's possible.
Everyone wants to write the bird. And Moon, I'm not going to read out their username because my eyesight is not good enough. It's
Sure.
more about their relationship. Do you intend to shape their relationship in a way similar to or as a reference for the original ancient manga series?
Wow,
I'm not entirely sure what that means.
I'm not sure which ancient mangas. I would love to know.
that's
I
awesome.
mean, I hope they're not talking about that Japanese one that no one has been able to find. And I almost went to the National Library for Children in Japan just to see a copy of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there is
I
a
certainly
copy
haven't read
there.
it. Oh,
Um,
really?
apparently, I read somewhere there is a copy in the National Library. But the idea is so intimidating that that might just be someone saying it online, and that I would
Yeah.
try and turn up with not great Japanese to say, "Do you have this?" Yeah, it wasn't part of this year's Japan trip. Let's put it that way. But it's
Okay.
still a goal of mine, and we went
Yeah,
into
for sure.
every used comic place to see if they had it, but no
Yeah.
luck.
That would be a get. Because yeah,
Yeah,
like I certainly haven't read it, so I couldn't even tell you what that relationship would be.
it's the
But
only
yeah,
one
like
that I
we're
can think of. But yeah.
yeah. I mean, as far as Mark and Conchi's relationship, it's never going to be great.
Yeah.
But as time has gone on, they're starting to maybe understand each other a little better. Um, we're definitely Mark asking Khonshu for help in number 8 is a lot more is a much different feeling than him asking Khonshu for help in number what 11 of the first run.
Mm.
When he has to ask him to teleport him essentially to the Midnight Mission.
Ah, that's right. Yeah, yep.
Um, they're definitely they'll never be pals
Mm.
because and there's just too many hurt feelings there.
Yeah.
But I think they're understanding how to maybe work together a little better. And also, again, if there's no conflict, there's no friction. There's really not much point to it.
Yeah. I do like that little. There's that little bit. I think it was in 8, where they're talking on that mindscape
Mm-hmm.
realm, and then Moon Knight kind of is like resurrect, or he comes back, and
Yeah,
Conchi was a little bit forlorn. He's a little bit sad, and I like that thing where you get a little glimpse at Conchu. He's not a total arrogant, prick. He has
oh
that
yeah,
little bit of
yeah,
feeling, for Mark, because he's got a little I don't know, sentimentality towards him or something. But yeah.
yeah. That was like number 6 or something.
Oh, was it 6? Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
think so. Yeah, yeah. Because then that was kind of like a nod in that direction where we know what people expect from Khonshu, and we wanted to maybe give him, swerve it a bit,
Mm.
and add a bit of melodrama, a bit of almost sympathy for
I think it
insane
works
bird
really
god
well
except for
because you
Lobo.
also expanded the lore to let us see where the old Moon Knights are, and to bring in Hunter's Moon to like have that to me also slightly changed how I saw the sort of Khonshu Moon Knight
Mm.
relationship, because there was just this wider scope for like where Mark may end up, where he's been resurrected a billion times. There's these other
Yeah,
Moon Knights out there. It's not just him, and um, you know, I think kind of all fit in really well with that restructure.
Yeah, and so we'll see that relationship develop as time goes on. Because he's free. He's out of Asgard now, and as of yet, no one's gotten mad at them for breaking Asgard and breaking a god out of prison. But I guess we'll see what happens.
That's something ahead for sure. Now this is a quite involved one here. Big thank you to Leo, MSHGM. I'm going to try to maybe summarize this for you, Jed. There are 6. He's loaded his questions with six bullet forms for you.
All right.
First one. Okay, I think there might be some repetitive ones here from previous questions. First one. How does it feel being able to put Moon Knight in a team setting in a non-Avengers context for pretty much the first time? I mean, yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's necessarily accurate.
Yeah.
Because if you sum up a team as in like the Midnight Mission crew, it's essentially the same as. Well, I guess it's not. Let's say it's essentially the same as the original supporting cast, except this original supporting cast didn't like crew up and go beat up dudes with him. So it's not really a team so much as it is just a solo superhero supporting cast. Just in this case, they happen to be other people who will beat people up with him, as opposed to just like hanging out and like giving them life advice.
Yeah, it's cool. Next one is a simple question: Moon Knight or Mr. Knight? Which one do you prefer?
I don't think I prefer one over the other because I feel like each have different uses. Generally speaking, Mr. Knight doesn't do the fighting. Mr. Knight's there to talk to people and do things. Moon Knight is there to fly around and beat people up. So I think there's a pretty firm division of labor between their 2 areas of expertise.
Mm-hmm. Now I think here again, what are your plans?
What are your plans for this year in the future?
Yeah.
Read the book. Read the book.
Read the book. 4 is an interesting turn.
I was just giggling at 4. I was just reading.
Yeah, it must be a Marvel Rivals fan. Do you play Rivals, Jed, by any chance?
I don't know.
No, okay, I don't. Rebecca, you've tried it, have you?
I tried it for like half an hour before we should say before I realised I'm not gonna play this. I'm going back to Baldur's Gate and like Dragon Age and my little,
But Leo just asks that in the Rivals game, Zodiac is kind of like the big villain for Moon Knight, and they ask, how does it feel to have a villain you helped popularize in recent years be included in the new game?
Oh, that's cool. It's I got a kick out of. I don't remember what game it was, but Reese was mentioned in it, and there's like Reese from the Midnight Mission.
Oh, was that the Midnight Suns game?
Was that it?
I don't know.
Yeah, it was just like
that's
Reese
the
from
one
the
that
Midnight Mission.
People quote lots of random things from the Midnight Sun game, so I was just guessing it might be.
Yeah, but it's like a little card essentially that's like an event in game, and is here on behalf of her boss or whatever. I was like, man, it's absolutely savage slam that Reese gets name checked, but Moon Knight does not. Though I now know that they were just like I think playing coy.
Yeah.
I think also at one point Moon Knight is gonna like feed someone to the mission or something, which I thought was quite fun. So
amazing.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's always fun to see that stuff pop up. I mean, obviously I didn't create Zodiac, but putting him in Moon Knight's orbit, I think is. And seeing that be a thing that is referenced elsewhere is that's like a bit of validation because something that you come up with works to the point where other people want to accept it as an important part of the character.
Yeah, be very flattering. It's similar to the next question, I guess. Leo talks about how in the Rivals game, Moon Knight fights vampires, which you brought in through the comics as well, with Moon Knight fighting the vampires. And how does it feel knowing the writers for the game may have taken inspiration from your work on Moon Knight as well? I mean, that's similar to that.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get paid for it, but that's nice.
Sorry. And we've got the last question here about Rivals Moon Knight. Okay, sorry. I like how he has been characterized so far in the game. Besides one thing, at one point in the story, Moon Knight suggests using the Montesi formula to kill all the vampires in the city. Now the game doesn't bring it up, but I assume his friends Reese and Soldier are around since Zodiac is around at this point. So I don't think Moon Knight would agree to a plan to kill all the vampires. Maybe they are outside the city at the moment, so it wouldn't affect them.
None
Or
of
maybe
this
they
is a question.
no.
But we all know a lot more about Marvel Rivals now.
Yeah, he does. No,
There you
yes.
go.
Thank you, Leo. For those watching the video, you can check out the thing. Yeah, I'm just having a quick flick through for a question, and you're right, Jed. There isn't.
He does give props for Eric Bra as the voice actor for Moon Knight.
Okay.
So let's
Mhm.
all appreciate that there's a voice actor for Moon Knight in as well.
And he also says thanks for the years of work you put into writing the favorite character, and thank you to. Oh yeah, thank you to us. Thank you. Yep. So thank you, Jed. No, thank you, Jed.
Thank you for reading, Leo.
Thank you.
I'm Sarge made the shit face. Would like to know the best way to reach you for a comic book signing.
I mean, I really only do signings where, like, I'll sign at conventions I'm at, which I don't do a lot anymore. Like, I don't go to U.S. shows anymore because the whole border business seems like a real pain in the neck. I don't really want to go to Guantanamo Bay or whatever.
Yeah, no, I feel the same way about going to U.S. Conventions.
So, like, if I'm traveling somewhere, generally I'll do a signing, but I don't travel as much anymore. You know, if you live in Halifax, Nova Scotia, I can sign whatever you want. Just go to Strange Adventures and leave it there. But as for that, I'm going to Montreal Comic Con 2 weeks, I think. We'll be doing that. Other than that, it just kind of depends where I'm at. I don't like do signing events or tours or anything really, because it's just not really what I do. So yeah, I don't know. Guess just catch me at some place I'm at. I usually announce like when I have a signing somewhere. But these days it's mostly throughout Canada.
Okay, so Canada's your best bet. Serge, make your way up there.
Yeah,
Rebecca, I'll give you the next one.
I thought you might. Durskovitz. Hey Jed, it's been really amazing and special watching you write about Mark's Judaism throughout the book. From the days born in night to Mark saying the Shema in issue 30 to the spirit of the law bits with how he handles Shroud and Jake speaking Yiddish. I can't thank you enough for this representation. I agree. A big part of being Jewish is wrestling with your faith, and Mark certainly does his fair share. I was wondering for you, how has learning about Judaism influenced how you see Mark, and how do you plan to continue exploring his faith in future series?
I actually didn't know that the day being born the night thing was part of Judaism. I just came up with that because I thought it was a good bit. That's from when Mark and Tigra were first hanging out in issue 4. I've learned more about Judaism as I've been working on this book, mostly because of my friends who have been very kind enough to share their time and their experience, which again is Alex Packnadol and Rich Dewick. And specifically Alex has got a lot of really interesting perspective on Judaism and like the roots of faith and how that kind of how that expresses itself. And I hadn't really thought about it with the bit with the shroud being kind of a reference to that, but I can see the connection there because that's something Alex was very clear on, is that a lot of what he said of how Judaism works is essentially interacting with law, interacting with commandment, and an ongoing negotiation of that.
Yeah, because like we all get to pick our own rabbi that we'll follow, which I remember being sort of impressed upon me at school, is like you pick the person you want to follow. If they happen to have views on a certain thing you don't agree with, you pick someone else.
Yeah.
So like it's quite flexible. We don't have the sort of Pope-like figure or the head of the whole religion. We're a bit more sort of negotiated.
Yeah, and the I think that the kind of relationship with religion being regarded as an ongoing, a contract, a compact that has been, continually negotiated, I think is really interesting. So I think a lot of that really informs the character, and again, the inherent contradictions of being, Jewish, raised by a rabbi, and working for an Egyptian god.
I love that. It's
Uh,
always my
which is,
favorite. I love it.
which I think is, I don't know if I'm probably not the first person to point that out, but I was definitely very pleased with myself when I kind of like thought about it.
I don't think it's
Um,
been really dug into though, like as a sort of focus of it. But I've always thought that was like just fascinating.
yeah,
So
and I think it's quite. I just think it's because obviously the historical Jewish relationship with Egypt is a pretty foundational thing. And, it's to the point where it carries through into Christianity. You know,
mm.
as part of Exodus. So I think it's an interesting integral part of the character. I think I think it's a core struggle for the character, and Marcus's character is entirely about struggle, where he struggles with his Jewishness. He struggles with uh, his duty as a fist of Khonshu. He struggles with his DID and how he relates to the other altars within his system. He struggles with his relationships with everyone else in his life, and I think that this struggle is another important kind of key piece of the character. As far as how I plan to continue exploring the faith and further issues, it's one of those things like we'll just see when it comes up.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. That very much is part of it. So many different aspects to Moon Knight, and I just also remember the Houston run as well about, and it's brought up every now and again about how, hey Mark, unintentionally just pushes everyone. I mean, you've touched upon it. Unintentionally pushes everyone away, and as part of his struggle because he just can't function properly, as hard as he tries. So, yeah, very cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I think something I think is interesting too about specifically his relationship to Judaism is uh, I don't know how you'd approach Elias Spector now because like you look at the early Elias Spector stuff, like he had the swastika carved in his head by Nazis, by like,
Hmm.
skinheads, and like, but also he was drawn like some sort of um, like turn of the century Jewish character, turn of the century rabbi. He's got like big hat. He's like always being swept by the wind. Um, so like we haven't really touched on Elias outside of that dream sequence with
Hmm.
Morpheus
Mm-hmm.
because honestly, I'm not entirely sure what to do with Elias or how to like portray him now. Because I mean, we saw him in the Lemire run, where he just goes kind of like a very uh, you know run of the
He
mill
was,
sort of guy.
yeah, it was much more just like standard Orthodox now. So
Yeah, yeah. He had a beard, and that was it. As opposed to like the long beard, the long robes, and
Mm.
stuff from the very early his first appearances. But again, like I think there's such fodder there with that character. When he goes in the boxing ring to try to stop Mark from fighting, and Mark just knocks him over. It's like, get out of here. Like
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's some cold shit. But it's also very emblematic of where Mark Spector came from.
Yeah. No, definitely. Next one is pretty cool. I like this part of Moon Knight. So from Tricato, it seems like Moon Knight has been casually racking up deaths quicker than usual, with the impact it has on his mind being explored further. I like this part of it that you've set up, Jed. It's really cool. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
anything?
I don't think that's a fair thing to say. We killed him. We killed him once in 30. I don't think his death in number 8 really counts because it was less so that he was resurrected and more that Khonshu was in charge of the sword. So maybe don't bring him back to life. Don't kill him because it's all this happened
That's true.
at the point of like he wasn't dead for very long. He got stabbed with a sword. All the stuff inside the sword mindscape happened within a second essentially, and then he kind of came back to life. So um, as that happens, I think it's something we do have to explore a bit. Because we've set this up that we kind of have to follow through. It's something that I've been kind of waiting to find the right space to get into with Hunter's Moon as well. Because we did set up that thing where he's losing a certain
Yes.
amount of control over the chorus,
Yeah, that's right.
and we haven't paid that off yet. So kind of like looking for the right time to get into that a bit more.
Yeah. Next one here,
By
Rebecca.
T-Twin. I'm not sure you're going to be able to answer. I'm not sure you're going to be able to answer this right now. But in its original appearances, the House of Shadows was seen to talk to characters like Doctor Strange. Is it now, or was it previously, not capable of speaking in your run, or was the Midnight Mission crew just unable to hear it?
It's just more for dramatic purposes. I
Yeah.
didn't want it to talk because I like it when it doesn't talk.
Yeah.
Also, you know, we kind of already have too many talking
It gives the
side
artist an
characters.
interesting. It's an interesting challenge for the artist as well, right? Like because it
Yeah,
emotes but doesn't talk, and it's a sort of
yeah.
being as such. So
But also, I think not being able to talk, I think reinforced one of the themes of the mission is that it was lonely,
yeah,
and I think not being able to talk, not being able to communicate, is a big part of how that would work. Um, and plus, I just like the vibe. I like Mark talking to it, and then not talking back to it, but him still understanding. It's like the R2D2 kind of
yeah,
thing, you know.
yeah. And then
That's
the
good.
second part of their question: would you ever consider bringing a system consultant back on board to give input on parts of the story?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it would depend on if I was doing more DID centered stuff. Um, Whereas with the way we've got things set up now, it's not as focused on DID, and also we have stated that Mark's DID does present as real DID would, based on the meddling the Khonshu's done with his brain,
Hmm.
in part to make it easier to tell stories with these characters, and I have had these conversations with Jake and Steven that popping up as we've seen from time to time, and also to kind of like retroactively make everything make sense because throughout Moon Knight's history, his DID has been shown in like wildly different ways.
Yeah.
So, um, kind of having a blanket amnesty of saying, well,
Yeah.
it's not real, but there's a reason for that, as opposed
Mm.
to we just don't know about we don't understand this. But yeah, if I was going to be doing more DID focus stuff, then yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that leads into we did get something from Lena, who Jed you consulted with for
Yep.
the
Yeah.
DID
No.
issues. So this is more of a comment than a question. So this is Lena speaking. I just wanted
Sure.
to tell. I just wanted to tell Jed that I appreciate a lot of the things that he's been doing lately regarding mental health representation. For instance, not only did Mark call Hank Pym out for calling him crazy, but Hank immediately realised that Mark was right and apologised. Dr. Sturman refused to be intimidated by Fraser and continues to be a staunch ally and supporter to Moon Knight and the Midnight Mission crew. This is refreshing when all too often therapists in comic books and other fiction end up either becoming villains or falling in love with their clients, which are stigmatizing portrayals that can lead to people being afraid to seek help for mental health issues. Stephen and Jake continue to be shown as supportive and helpful, but at the same time not afraid to call Mark out on his bullshit. I was confused at first as to why Mark's hallucinations when he was in the process of being cured from the glitter addiction told him Stephen and Jake can't help you now. Why couldn't they help him? But then I realised this was supposed to be Mark's nightmare. The fact that Mark's nightmare featured Stephen and Jake not being able to help him was, in itself, positive progress. Other writers of Moon Knight in years past would have, and did, write Mark's worst nightmares as featuring Stephen and Jake attacking him. So anyway, I guess all of this is my very long-winded way of saying thank you, Jed, for continuing to be sensitive to how you're portraying mental health in your writing. And don't forget, if you ever want any more info or insights about DID, we're just an email away. Thanks again, Lena. So yeah,
Yeah.
Jed, you're doing great.
It's good to hear. Yeah, I mean, Lena was such a big help when we were, getting back into the DID stuff in Moon Knight. Um, we backburnered it for quite a stretch in that first run. In part to kind of build dramatic tension because everyone says, where are these characters? And in part just because we wanted to explore Moon Knight without that being the direct focus. So once it was time to get back into it, Lena was fantastic help. I really appreciate
Yeah.
the advice, the context that they brought to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad that the various things that was mentioned here have landed. You know, when you're writing outside of your experience or your lived experience, you don't necessarily know for sure if it's going to land. I mean, sometimes even writing within your lived experience, it's not necessarily going to land.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see that it's working. That it's doing what was intended.
Yeah, no, that's great, and Lena has been so gracious in contributing so much to our community as well. So a huge thank you to Lena as well for all your comments and feedback.
Yeah, and if Lena is listening, I would personally be interested in their answer to the thing about Mark dating Tigra and what Jake and
Stephen.
Mm-hmm.
what Jake and Steve like. Jed can be out of that because it might impact his writing, but
Yeah.
please let me know, because I would like to know the answer.
Cool.
So I'm gonna these are grouped but a little bit ungrouped. So first of all, start with King J1220. The essential question is, how do you choose which villains to bring back? And then they say they've noticed a couple of especially obscure ones have turned up. They just read everything on Unlimited
The
on Moon
Commodore.
Knight. Imagine my
Commodore
surprise
Donny
when
Planet.
Commodore Donny Planet showed up
Yes.
for the first time. What other obscure villains would you like to see Moon Knight against? So I know you can't say what obscure villains you'd like
Yeah.
to see Moon Knight go against. So sorry to everyone. We can't do
Yeah.
anything that might sway what Jed might write, and he can't
Exactly.
answer anything that would give any spoilers. So, and the next question by Scoobjar McGee asked what made you bring Morpheus back. So the essence of that is that, how do you choose which villains you're going to bring back based on the ones you already have?
Yeah.
In sometimes it's say well Morpheus is a classic Moon Knight villain, and yeah, eventually want to bring in some classic Moon Knight villains because it's a Moon Knight book. The X-Men, you want to see them fight Apocalypse or Sabretooth. Same thing with Moon Knight. Was it a hard choice to kill him off? Not really. In part because if someone wants to use Morpheus again, they're just going to use him again. You know, heroes and villains come back from the dead all the time, especially lesser tier characters who die frequently come back inexplicably because someone just can't be arsed to do the reading to see that they died. Um, I don't see this as being like, oh, I'm clearing the decks and getting rid of all these old characters. No, because if someone wants to use them, they'll just bring them back. It's not a big deal.
And then Hypertoe says, what would have happened if the Spectre doesn't release Waxman? Would he have been forgotten for eternity? And did you plan to release him when you had him buried alive, or did you just want him to stay buried alive?
That's one of those things where I had no plans for it. I was like, I think when I was writing that book, I was like, oh, this would be a fun thing to do to Waxman. Well, fun for me. And he just kind of sat there. It's one of those things where when you're writing a book and you're hopefully in it for the long run, you don't necessarily have a plan for everything you're going to put down, but you remember that's there, so you can go back and pick it up and use it again. And that was the case with that Black Spectre issue in 25, where we were basically going back and picking up all the people that Moon Knight rather, had victimized through those first 25 issues.
Yeah.
To the point where that issue actually, we got Zodiac out of jail as well. So it was a good way. It was a good time to just kind of go back and say, here's all these people that Mark has fought and hurt and brutalized, and here we go. Jigsaw was dead at that point. Originally, it was going to be him in place of, I think, man, what am I thinking of? Not who was the guy who couldn't feel pain? Was that Manslaughter Marsdale?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
it was Manslaughter Marsdale.
Yeah.
I was getting him mixed up with Man Mountain Marco for obvious reasons.
I got very confused about that at one point, so I get
But yeah,
it.
I think I had Jigsaw in place of Marsdale, and they got the notice that Jigsaw's dead. You could just use them, but it seemed like it'd be kind of a shitty thing to do when another writer just killed them off. It's like, all right, well, I'll replace it with Marsdale. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. I like. I mean, just back. I like the idea of. I like the idea of Waxman being forgotten there for an eternity. I don't know if Jed, if you read, it was back in the 90s. Lifeform. It was across 4 annuals, and there was this huge
No.
Lifeform. That it started with Punisher, Daredevil, Hulk, and then it went to Silver Surfer, and it was this dude that gets chemically augmented, and he can't control it, and he becomes this huge like blob that just eats
Yeah.
any life form. Anyway, long story short, Silver Surfer flies him off to another planet, and he's about to use his cosmic power to obliterate him, but then he finds out that the guy's kind of like innocent. He's just, he had this chemical. And so Silver Surfer just leaves him there, but he's there for all eternity because he can't die. And I think, that was, yeah. So anyway,
yeah, it's rough stuff. I mean, it's like that kind of thing goes back to Cask Amontillado, obviously, but I'm reading I Have No Mouth, But I'm a Scream. And like the ending to that story, it's just when I was in high school or whatever, it's so horrific. It was so scary that's always kind of the thing where it's like, unending torment. Like you can't really beat that.
Exactly. We got the last bit here, Rebecca. No,
Taito Alba. I think the first question is separate from the second. First question: why does Stephen Grant care about being Moon Knight?
Thing is, I think Stephen Grant cares about being Moon Knight the least of three.
Yeah.
The thing about Stephen Grant is that he doesn't really have a choice.
Yeah.
He's kind of stuck with these two guys who are very into this, superhero stuff. I think Stephen Grant is someone, if he wasn't part of a system, if he wasn't essentially locked in with the other two, he could quite happily just go off and do his own thing.
I think so too. He'd have his
and that's what I find interesting about.
That's
what I find interesting about Stephen is that he doesn't have nearly as much skin in the game. Like obviously, Mark it's an obsession for him, but Jake it's part of his particular angle of protecting people, looking after people. But Stephen's kind of the odd man out, and I think that's interesting. It's something I would like to explore a little more. In that, Stephen is part of the Moon Knight gang as far as the system goes, but I don't think it's something that's as important to him as it is Mark or Jake.
No. And then, second of all, they ask, they comment that a lot of your recent runs have introduced teams of weird new villains. Is there anything you specifically like to make?
Oh yeah, I love making teams of weirdos. I think Moon Knight's the only comic I haven't done it in.
Well, there was the pool party.
The pool party.
Oh, awesome. That's true. We did have a pool party. I forgot about the pool party. Yeah, never mind. There it is. There it is. Chocolate clock, baby.
Just hilarious. Okay, Jed, we've only got a handful to go. Okay, so just in case you're wondering, don't worry. There aren't 250, only 200. No, only joking. So we've got one here. The second half probably won't be able to touch, but this is Muchacho Guapitan.
Sorry. People, your usernames are way too hard to pronounce sometimes.
I just can't believe you're still reading them. I would say, and the next question is.
We just want people to. We want people to be heard. So.
What happened to just that sounds way better. I mean, what happened to just your surname and your year of birth? Anyway, can you name? Can you name the new sword that Mark uses as Dragon Slayer? They say, I know. No, you can't. Okay.
It has a name.
Big copyright issues there.
Oh, okay, yes. I know is the title of the last issue with Mark taking it from her wielder, but as a great Berserk fan, I really adore the idea of a cursed sword for Mark. I love the sword as well. I think it's really great. And coupled with the Midnight Mission, that's why I'm hoping the Midnight Mission
I love all swords.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't go wrong.
Tony's is the best right now, though. However,
yes. And also, just a question about Layla after a resurrection. Any plans? But again, we can't really. So just stay tuned. How do you say it, Jed? Muchacho Guapitan.
I would say Muchacho Guapitan. I don't know. Yeah, I would say I haven't forgotten about Layla, and we will see her at some point.
Awesome.
Nice. So I have to Gullible Document 39. did you enjoy writing Moon Knight, and how long do you
No.
plan on writing? Good answer.
Forever.
I mean, obviously, I enjoy writing Moon Knight. How long do I plan on writing Moon Knight? Basically, as long as they let me.
Nice.
That's
like
awesome. That's
any
good to know.
Marvel
That's
The
comic,
answer we want. So,
yeah.
I
then
was thinking about it recently, in that like I do have a lot more things I'd like to do with the character. Because like we've got 50 issues, which is a pretty good stretch.
Yeah.
But there is a lot more I'd like to do. It just depends on how long the book stays selling, how long it stays profitable, how long.
Buy the book, everyone. Make him write it forever.
Yes.
Yeah, or how long until something changes that it has to change. So we'll see.
So random Avasal, love the direction you've taken with Moon Knight. 2 questions. Knowing what you inherited with Moon Knight's circumstances, were there any changes to his status quo you had to do, even if you didn't like them?
Not really. I know a lot of people feel some kind of way about the question of Khonshu being real or not being resolved, but I don't really care. Also, I feel like that was essentially resolved.
I think it was essentially resolved
prior to that. Yeah.
Yeah, and like if you were to write an ongoing for the current Ultimate Universe, what character would you like to adapt, since Mooney is already established?
Yeah.
I don't really know, to be honest.
I mean, I know you're about to go into the Imperial ones, but like, if you were going to do the Ultimate,
yeah, I don't really know what I'd do.
Say Iron Lad and make me happy.
I mean, that's already Dennis already did that with Ultimates, though.
Yeah, but like he could still have a solo run.
Sleepwalker, Jed.
Could he though?
Fool Killer. Come on, Ray. Back to OG Rebecca's obsession with Fool Killer.
Yeah.
I do like Fool Killer. I did introduce a new Fool Killer in Man Without Fear that, in retrospect, I should have just made it the normal Fool Killer. I don't really know why. maybe I was made to. But I mean, I've got the I don't know if you see behind those books up there, my Marvel trading cards from when I was a kid.
Oh,
and Fool Killer was a rookie card then.
Yes, I got that one.
They have leather vest and like a big shell necklace or something, like a gimp mask,
and just armless, sleeveless jacket or something. Yeah.
And then like the original Fool Killer was like giant pirate hat. And,
amazing
like,
hat, amazing.
That was awesome. And it's like disintegrator beam.
Yeah,
great stuff. And like the name Fool Killer is incredible. You can't beat that.
Yeah. It's just, I think it's hard with the Ultimate, because I agree. I think there is this very solid plan, and unless you pick, I think like it's hard to tell.
Remember, Jed, in that card, Fool Killer's strike rate was like 100% because he killed every enemy he's come across.
Just killed everyone. He's amazing.
Well, it wasn't until years later that I found out that all those stats were completely made up.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, there's I think Tom did a lot of those, and I think he mentioned in one of his newsletters, he's like, "Yeah, we just made up the wins and losses." I was like, "Oh shit, really? Okay."
No.
But yeah, everyone should be aware that Jed is writing on the Nova Imperial book. Yeah.
Imperial
big
War,
Nova fans
Nova,
here as well.
So. Centurion.
Yeah,
cool.
Imperial War, Nova Centurion out September?
Someday. I don't know.
I was right.
I'll know when I do my monthly like gathering of titles to see what's coming out that month. I'll be like, oh shit, all right, here we go.
It's September, everyone.
But yeah, doing some work with old Rich Rider, so that should be fun.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. That'd be very fun.
I love them.
Coming up to the penultimate slide here, Jed. This one's, I don't know, we'll see how this goes. Speedy, I think Speedy sent something in before as well. Hey, Jed, the way you write Khonshu is perfect, so I wanted to ask, what was it like to bring him into the story more prominently at the end of Vengeance and in Fist of Khonshu after he was mostly absent for the initial run?
I mean, good, I guess. A lot of these questions say like, what is this like, or how does it feel like? I'm just kind of like, oh, nice. But yeah, like Khonshu is one of several tools in the Moon Knight toolbox as far as things you do in stories. We buy I'm trying to. My brain got scrambled for a second there. But yeah, we deliberately kept him off the board through the first 30 issues through all 30 issues of Moon Knight, and then most of Vengeance. But eventually it comes time to release him, get him out there, get him in the world. So now we're just kind of exploring how that's going to work as well. Because it turns out what we need is yet another speaking side character in this book. But he adds a different sort of tension to the book, and I think it's been fun to explore that. It is also kind of good because we do bring him in to solve some problems, but it's not that often, and in part because he's just kind of he's not a guy who you go to for everything because he's fickle and honestly a real pain in the ass. So. Yeah, I think it works out well. It's you say Moon Knight's overpowered because he's got a god in his corner. It's like he doesn't really though. He has a god that needs God's phone number, who may or may not pick up the phone,
and who's just as likely to send him on a crazy mission.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
Yeah, I like
that. You
know
what?
Yeah.
No, sorry. Go ahead.
I know, I was about to say, I like that he's used sparingly as well, because again, it's similar to Zodiac. He has that effect, right? When he's called or something important's happened or he's needed, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Slide.
Last one here, Rebecca.
These are all quick fire, I think, so it should be quite good. So SSG Gokule, will 8-Ball find love with the Nadia? He deserves a win.
No. He is much too old for her. Also, isn't she asexual?
Yes.
Or no, wait, no, sorry, I'm thinking Gwenpool. Sorry, my bad.
No, I think she. I mean, but
is she?
No. Nadia is way too young with him.
Yes,
absolutely not.
Hank would absolutely wreck him.
He would.
Mark probably as well.
Go through the
2D Squid. I've always wondered: does Jake have a legitimate driver's license, and is he actually a registered cabbie?
No, he doesn't pay taxes either.
He just swipes someone's cab and he's just kind of driving around in the cab, like.
Yeah, like Jake's main quality trait is being a charming
fake mustache.
and so there's no way that he leaves a paper trail. He's the only cabbie in New York that only accepts cash.
He's sly. He's under the radar.
And Jed, we need to know if Mark loves Chicago-style pizza because he was born there.
I don't think so because he wears white.
It would be a bad choice to eat when white. But then same with
he's got a lot of blood there anyway.
Chicago food.
I mean, I couldn't say. I feel like any way I answer this is going to get people mad at me.
No, they didn't ask if he prefers it to New York, though. They just said, "Does he like it?" So you're kind of safe.
The thing is, I think Mark likes Chicago-style pizza, whereas I think Jake likes New York pizza, and I think Stephen Grant eats his pizza with a fork and knife.
Definitely, he only eats Italian style. As well.
Yeah, it's like it's only like very specifically authentic from a particular region.
Yeah,
from Italy. From Italy, it has a flown in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But also for him, it's just never good enough. Like he'll eat it, and the new place will open, he'll have it, and he'll eat it with his knife and fork. And he'll just kind of like put the knife and fork aside and sigh.
Just the standards are just too high. But Jed, those are all the questions. Thank you so much for taking the time to go through those, and a huge thank you to everyone for sending in questions in. Jed, I know you needed a couple of cups of water there, like you were answering all the questions. But no, huge thank you for spending some time.
No, it's been a while. It's been good to catch up and see what people are saying and answer some questions.
Yeah, it's glad it's still going and. Glad we didn't have to think of any questions. Thank you, everyone. For enabling me to work instead of do fun things.
There you go.
But no, that was really great, Jed. And look, it was never fashioned to be like a Q&A, straight Q&A with you here. We were going to have a chat, but like again, we were overwhelmed positively with these questions.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, I wanted to give them their justice. So, Jed, before we go, a huge thank you. Is there anything, I mean, we've mentioned what's coming up in potentially September and the titles that you're in already, but yeah, is there anything that you want to plug?
No, just the usual books coming out. We've got X-Men. Next month we got X-Men number 19, which will be kicking off the direction for the next year. We just finished our first year of X-Men. Avengers is in the middle of our Masters of Evil storyline. Once that's done, we're going to be getting into some real serious business with the Avengers kind of greater story we started back in Timeless. And Moon Knight continues to pay. It's number 10, big anniversary issue number 50 for us, issue number 250 for Moon Knight somehow.
Very exciting.
Yes.
And it's I believe, a 30-page giant. We're going to see the whole Midnight Mission crew throw down with this posse Achilles Fairchild has put together. If you thought Dev's fights were good before, this is completely unreal.
Cannot wait. I think Dev has kind of alluded to some stuff as well. He just can't wait to get out there. So
yeah,
it's a good one.
Yeah, nice.
And then in September we got Imperial War: Nova: Centurion.
Cool.
Which is the one shot which take place between Imperial 3 and 4.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, go check it out, Loonies. If you love Jed's stuff, if you've dabbled in his other titles, go check it out. I highly recommend it. You know what you're getting. You know the quality. It's all there. So yeah, a huge thank you once again, Jed. Hopefully again we can have you again when time permits for you. We know that you're very busy, but always so fun to have you on the show.
That's always great to chat. Yeah, just I'm at your disposal.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Rebecca, is there anything else you want to shout out before we...
No.
Close up shop?
I did just do an Immortal Iron Fist podcast about the Colleen and Misty Deadly Hands of Kung Fu issue 32. Very good. Nice. Really enjoyed it. Can't wait to see the end of the story, even though I've read it before. But it's always fun to see them kick butt.
And there's always interesting.
Is that the Emile Vachon one?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So we brought his daughter into the Dragon series. That
because I think that was the first thing I read of yours, probably. Follow them through. So and so that's cool. What about you, Ray? How's Predator going?
Good. Yes, just scheduling issues, but we are still pretty keen and trying to tee up an episode to talk about Killer of Killers. So the amazing animated. Yeah. Have you watched that, Jed?
I have not. No.
Oh, you should. It definitely is really good. But anyway, a lot of things have come out. There are a lot of spoilers in there as well. A lot to discuss. So we'll get that out soon enough. Anyway, once again, thank you everyone for listening. Catch us on video. Catch us on the podcast. Jed, if you just hang tight after the curtains kind of close. But as always, everyone, may country watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.